It is an act of strategy, and good strategy is always to have friends. Right? I mean, right now, there is a. Let's forget about Pakistan for a moment. Right now, what's our relationship with China? Are we friends or enemies?
We are somewhere in that grey area. Well, we're largely, I think the broad strokes are enemy.
I can give you 10 line items which will show that they have killed our troops, they have taken over our territory, or at least they claim that they have rights over our territory. They are hegemonistic towards our entire state. They are calling one whole state of ours as not belonging to us.
Right.
They have physically occupied spaces. They fit all list items of an enemy.
Right.
They're our biggest trading partner. We have the biggest trading deficit with them. If we have to go to war with Pakistan, guess what? The mobile phones on which many of our commanders will be talking will have Chinese chips on it.
Right.
And all of that. And if we need war with all, to a certain fiber optic cable is war with all now.
Right.
Right. Fiber optic cable is communication.
Right.
The fiber optic cable comes from there.
Right.
Solar panels come from there. So energy, war on energy, you need energy to fight. If you need energy to fight, you need to spare oil. If you need to spare oil, you need more solar power. Solar power, where do the, sure, we are making it now in India, but bulk still comes from there.
Right.
So suddenly one list almost acts like a list of allies. ये तो अलाई देगा ना आपको, ये एनर्जी अलाई देगा, रिसोर्सेज अलाई देगा, माइक्रो कंडक्टर अलाई देगा, माइक्रोचिप अलाई देगा, सिलिकॉन ये अलाई देगा, लेकिन सोल्जर्स को मारेगा, एनिमी टेरिटरी लेगा, ये करेगा, वो एनिमी करेगा. Now in the same country, with the same leader, you have a dual relationship.
Right.
So where do you qualify that? I think Pakistan will end up there. I think our real enemy, India's real enemy, or this subcontinent's real enemy, is the acute concentration of power
in the hands
of a few. That's our real enemy. Whether it's China, whether it's India, whether it's Pakistan, the real enemy is the massive inequity between the haves and the have-nots. You think the population of Pakistan has any say in it?
No.
You think an average Pakistani who's on the street, or a ठेले वाला on the street, ये जो नीचे ठेले वाला आपके स्टूडियो के नीचे जो वड़ा पाव बेच रहा है, उसको जाकर तुम पूछो यार इंडिया क्या करना चाहिए? आप बोले सर सुबह से बिक्री नहीं हो रही है. That's his focus. So it is this one tiny thin segment which is literally playing with the lives of the entire subcontinent. That's one of our major problems. You don't have this kind of a problem. Let's say UK may take wrong decisions.
Right.
France may take wrong decisions. But it's a well-deliberated, well-considered decision of the masses. Brexit may have been a wrong decision, but everyone voted for it. Right?
Right.
Here, that's not the situation. Pakistan, that's not the situation at all.
At all, right.
Pakistan, the levers are being held by 8 to 10 people or 15 people or 200 people or whatever, and those people are playing with the lives of everyone else. And those getting killed. So, for example, a tit for tat, what does it take? They came, killed 26 of our
civilians,
people. Right? You can't do anything in Pahalgam because that's a hot area. Select another area somewhere in the border, go across, send your special forces across. They'll round up a village and gather 100 people and kill them. Is that what India is about?
No.
Because the guy who went there from India and got shot in Pahalgam, and the guy who's tilling his farm, whom some special forces will come and shoot in the head, they are equally culpable or equally innocent. So by killing another innocent, it's a bit like, I'm making a macabre example, but it's almost like the family feud, that the neighboring family killed my son in a road accident, so I'll now go in a car, look around for his son and kill his son. It is sheer stupidity. And especially stupidity with a person who doesn't give a shit how many sons of his you kill.
Right.
Because you have a problem there.
Right. You care about your sons.
You care about your sons. You care about your border villages. You care about the farmers who are working on the border. When artillery shelling will happen, they will lose their livelihood, they will die or whatever. You actually, see, that's the point, and that's where I think India should not go wrong. India treats Kashmir as India. Pakistan treats it as Azad Kashmir. It's the Azad part of Kashmir. It's a very simple thing to look at, as they say, very famous. You look at the night chart of the valley.
Right.
And just take a look at how much electricity is there on this side of the valley
and that side
and the India side, right? Look, वो पाकिस्तान की मजबूरी है. अगर उसके पूरे पाकिस्तान में खाने की किल्लत है तो वो मतलब कश्मीर को कौन सा अलग से दे देगा. Right. It's a country which has got the economic prowess that we have, that is able to look after any one of our states better than a country which is poorer than us. They'll be able to look after any one of their states. So by definition, they cannot match the state's progress, Kashmir versus the area that they have occupied.
Right.
They cannot do that. So they have to rule it with a stick. So if he's ruling it with a stick in any case, आप artillery shelling करो तो उसको क्या फर्क पड़ता है? You're not ruling with a stick. You want the border and all the farm along the border, the villagers to be able to take their cows, to be able to do their harvesting, farming, collecting the harvest. You want them to do that. So you are actually taking a panga, or not panga, you are actually skirmishing with somebody for whom bloodletting is not a big deal. You should not fight his battle of bloodletting. You should fight the battle of defanging the general's locus standi. You have to defang that.
That's the solution.
That's the solution. Because please remember one thing, that no matter what you say in your channels, the Pakistani people are hearing something else completely. Right? I mean, you can argue that we fought 4 wars with Pakistan and we won all the 4 wars.
And they can say the same, practically.
They say the same.
Yeah, right.
They say the same.
Which is such a fact of it just did not make sense to me the first time I came across that.
Why wouldn't it make sense to you? So suppose you were a Pakistani student in Pakistani school. What does your teacher teach you? They teach you that before 1948 war, we had no Kashmir. After the war, we have 1/3 Kashmir. Who won that war?
They won that war. Yeah, right.
So from his psyche, he says कि यार जंग से पहले हमारे पास कुछ नहीं था. हमने लश्कर भेजे, लड़ाई लड़ी, 1/3 तो मिल गया हमको.
Right.
तो लड़ाई से मिला ना. So his training is that he fought a war and he got it.
Right.
1965, the second time he started.
Right.
Now, he started the war, he didn't make any substantial gains. So, one can argue, he started, didn't make substantial gains, and therefore he lost. I look at it this way, there's another way to look at it. I'm just studying Pakistan as an adversary. You should study your adversary. You should actually read books about your adversary, read their history, understand their culture, listen
where
to
they're
their
coming
music.
from. Yeah.
And not just where they're coming from, but what's going on in their head.
Right.
And what are they thinking? Because please remember, what your adversary is thinking and what you are thinking could be 2 separate things completely.
It generally is part of the reason why your adversaries is that.
One is that, but you're right, absolutely right. One of the reasons why your adversary, you could also be adversaries with similar thinking but different ideologies.
Right.
And you could also be same ideology, same thinking, but both wanting the top spot. And you'd still be adversaries.
Right, sure.
Right? But it is very important to be inside your adversary's head, because very often what motives you will ascribe to him or her may or may not be true.
Right, agreed.
There's a very famous case study that is taught in intelligence schools. Is the Yom Kippur War. I've written a piece about it also. I'll see if I can send it to you. So Yom Kippur War, Golda Meir was the prime minister. Moshe Dayan was the chief of, I think, the army, and one more, I'm forgetting, the Russian fellow, Russian heritage fellow was the chief of the army. Moshe Dayan was the chief of the intelligence. And they wargamed Nasser's threat. Nasser kept saying, I'll attack.
Just for context, Israel and Egypt.
Egypt,
right.
Yeah.
Nasser is Egypt, and then these guys are Israel.
Right. And he came to power on that plank. कि मैं तो Israel को ठोकूंगा, मैं Israel को ठोकूंगा. And the Israelis wargamed it. And see, for Israel, for all the blunderbuss that Israel, or rather Israel enjoys, they're very good friends of mine, they have a very important dilemma to make, the very important decision to make, that if they mobilize, Israel shuts down.
They have to shut down everything because all people get deployed. Yeah, right.
Taxi driver भी जाएगा जहाज उड़ाने के लिए, executive भी जाएगा tank चलाने के लिए. So if they mobilize, it is as good as saying that from today India's GDP will be 0.
The country stops
next 1 month.
Right.
No GDP.
Right.
तो आपको सेना को तनख्वाह देने के लिए पैसे नहीं आएंगे.
Right.
You won't have the money for that.
Right.
So it's a very big decision for them. So they wargamed, and their wargaming, they continuously wargamed that Egypt cannot win. And they got warnings from Russia, which withdrew their advisors from Egypt. The king of Jordan gave them the date that on so-and-so date the attack is coming in, and still they didn't mobilize. And of course, they almost touch and go for Israel. And though they didn't mobilize, they managed to beat them back. But in the aftermath, when you did the wargaming and you realize where did Israel go wrong? Israel assumed Nasser wanted to win. Nasser didn't want to win. Nasser wanted to go down in history as the man who took on the Israelis. The Israeli mindset was, I will not enter into this game until I win.
So
But
because-
Nasser didn't want to win.
Because you don't have the motives down right, you cannot
did.
predict.
So Golda Meir was a Polish woman. Moshe Dayan was from Russia. The chief of military at that point was also a Russian. They didn't have the Arabic mindset. They didn't realize that for an Arab, victory may not be the end. The very fact that I went down fighting may be the main element. So that's the reason why you have to study your adversary. So when you study your adversary, you realize that Pakistan is an insecure country. And it has reasons to be. The reason why it's insecure is, firstly, it's a very thin country. Unlike India, it doesn't have depth. Right? India has depth. You can put your nuclear assets way down below and all of that stuff. You have depth. You have the depth of the Indian Ocean, and you've got Sri Lanka also behind. You've got Andaman, Nicobar. So you've got like substantial depth. Pakistan is a very thin country. So when you start coming from behind into Afghanistan, it worries him. Because now you're doing a pincer movement. So if you're a Pakistani and you see Indians in Afghanistan, it means you're being sandwiched from both sides.
Yeah, right.
And basically the Pakistani military needs to find a reason of existing. And the reason for existing for them is the Indian guerrilla.
Right.
So until and unless we can address the Pakistani awam literally directly and tell him, भाई अपने को बहुत बड़ा यार प्लान है, अपने को चाइना को हराने का है, पूरा इधर तेरा माइंडसेट जितना ना अपना नेपाल के बारे में जितना सोचते हैं ना, उतना ही सोचते हैं पाकिस्तान के बारे में.
Right.
और वो सोचते नहीं तुम्हारे बारे में, इसलिए तुम बीच बीच में जाके तुम्हारे जनरल साहब उंगली करते हो. और फिर हम कुछ ये करते हैं, दोनों का नुकसान है यार. तुम्हारा भी नुकसान है, हमारा भी नुकसान है. पैसा कौन बना रहा है? जनरल बना रहा है, और कोई नहीं बना रहा पैसा.
Right.
This communication, if we are able to give them and they realize it, please remember, no country can be ruled by a minority. ये तो गांधी जी ने बोला था.
Without the support of
the masses.
Right.
If masses start saying, yeah, these guys are taking us for a ride, and बहुत हो गया. I mean, you have had the Arab Spring coming from a very, very similar
background,
background of a very draconian, militaristic. ये तो Pakistani military is nothing compared to Muammar Gaddafi and some of the other guys who were controlling it with an iron fist. The Pakistani military has been ousted by their own judiciary. Right? So it's a vibrant community. It's you have met so many Pakistanis, I'm sure, in out of this context, you find they have the same aspect. Like any human being in any part of the world, everybody wants something for their family. They want to do well. Nobody is out here, isko finger karna hai maine, this country ko finger karna hai, and all of that stuff. This is not what the common people in any country want. Nobody wants this. Even soldiers don't want it.
Right.
Matter of fact, soldiers really know what a bullet can do.
Yeah.
They know when a bullet hits, you don't sing a song and like Amitabh Bachchan sings a song after. You scream for your mother.
Right.
You see your
Insides
intestines
come out,
in your
yeah.
hands.
Right.
It's horrific.
Right.
War is horrific. And anybody who talks about war casually, कि कर देना चाहिए, हो जाना चाहिए, obviously you've not seen it.
Yeah.
Obviously they've not seen it. They've not held a dead body in their hands. They've not seen a body die in their hands. They've not seen that. So I think the right thing for Indians to do. This is not an Indian political leadership response. That's wrong. That's the wrong way to look at it. I think it's an Indian response. The Indian response has to be that your aim was to terrorize us. And that objective would have only two, measurable outcomes. One, we got scared and we are not going to go back to Kashmir and the Amarnath Yatra instead of the normal, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, I don't know how many go there every year, which is considered to be the benchmark. This year it will only be half. Then they have succeeded. They have succeeded. But if on the other hand it is no, for us it's normal. तू करके दिखा हमको, terrorize करके दिखा. क्या करेगा तू? तुम्हारा 26 लोग हमारा, sure, we'll take you on it. Don't worry. But guess what? Tourism is increased now. We are going, more of us are going there. Now that response, more of us are going there. This is our state. What are you talking about? It's our state. You chose only Muslims to kill. You took out. This is all a drama. This is all being done with a very, very specific purpose. You could have done, skirmish killing like that.
Right.
But this is pinpointed. It's almost like bring this is a statement. This has been done by terrorists in every terror environment, that they will take adult males. It's been done by Hitler's Nazis. It's been done by
Because it produces
LTT.
the maximum crying faces.
It actually brings in, see, cold-bloodedness is always more menacing. Whenever
Right, I get it.
Whenever they show a villain, they try to depict the villain with no qualms.
Yeah.
No qualms. Because a person with no qualms, who's cold-blooded, is always far more chilling and far more fearful.
A dispassionate person in that way, right?
Who doesn't care about human life.
Yeah.
For whom human life is irrelevant.
Right.
Why? Because it removes your last hope of mercy. How will you seek mercy from a monster?
Right. There's no appeal to
There's
mercy.
no appeal. So, in essence, this cold-bloodedness that making you line up and say, okay, are you a Hindu? Chal kalma pad ke suna. Ye karke dekh. Of course, it could also be, many of these things have nuances that you and I sitting here will never ever realize. It could also be that the guy has given him very strict instructions. साला एक भी मुस्लिम नहीं मरना चाहिए, समझ गया? तेरे पे responsibility है, whoever you're the lieutenant, you make sure not a single Muslim should die. तो वो अपना अक्ल लगा रहा है. ऐसा नहीं यार, I don't know, पैंट उतार के देखेगा, कटवाए कि नहीं है. But he's doing his stuff. So it's not like some big operation plan that we'll do. A sense of it is to terrorize the people, to give them that cold-bloodedness that we can come in, kill, and walk away and go away, and nothing can happen to us. So your entire establishment is incapable of protecting you. That is the message of the terrorists. That's the message of the terrorists.
ब्रदर, ये क्वेश्चंस और ये पॉडकास्ट सुन के आपके भी दिमाग के चक्षु खुले ना, सो subscribe to this so that you can watch our podcast in small bits and clips while you are busy and wasting your life away.